Hello and welcome to Film de Siecle, the film and media channel focused on all things 90s and 2000s. This week, Seb and Ollie will be discussing Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Hello and welcome back to Film de Siecle. We continue our look at the Star Wars prequels with Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. So, Ollie, what are your memories of this particular movie?
I'm probably less fond of this one than I am the other two, to be honest, but I do have memories of it. I went to see it in the cinema with my dad. I remember laughing aloud when Yoda started hopping around and fighting. I don't know why, I thought it was really funny at the time.
Do you know what? That seems really weird because it garners one of two reactions from people. Either, wow, that's so amazing and badass, this is the Yoda we've been waiting for, or, ha ha ha, isn't that funny, he looks ridiculous.
Yeah, well, he did. Like, the guy that historically hobbles around on a walking stick suddenly pulling out a lightsaber and doing acrobatics was very funny.
It kind of is. I mean, I don't know which category I fall into because I suppose he would fight like that if he, with a lightsaber. Although I never really imagined him as somebody who ever needed a lightsaber, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was when I was a kid. I've sort of grown up with Yoda being able to use a lightsaber, and it's just sort of part of the makeup now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think they could have done any different with Yoda using a lightsaber. It's always going to look a bit crazy frog all over the place, like Gollum on top of invisible Frodo to some extent, but it's just one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it is. But other than that part of the movie, I don't have that many strong memories for much of it. Other than I remember the first time I went to see it in the cinema, I thought it was weird that Anakin leapt on top of Padme and cut the poisonous centipede thingies with a lightsaber, as opposed to just like force lifting them off her.
Yeah, but I suppose time is of the essence.
Yeah, I just thought, wow, that was really dangerous. And then Obi-Wan jumps headlong out of a window, and I was like, well, that kind of set the tone, didn't it?
That's even more dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of force powers, this is the silliest one. I mean, all the stuff on Coruscant.
What was Obi-Wan's plan there?
I don't know, he had like a 95% chance of falling to his death doing that.
Yeah, and then like he has a go at Anakin for dangerous flying.
Yeah. But it's a really weird movie in terms of what the Jedi can do, because usually we have a good understanding of what the Jedi can do, but with this one we're like, wait, they can jump hundreds of feet and do all this and fly around the skies of Coruscant without getting injured.
I did watch this one a lot because I went into hospital for a major surgery on my legs around the time this came out on video. So my family bought it for me to watch in the hospital, which I did basically on repeat.
Yeah. Because, well, what better is there to do?
So I became very, very familiar with this film.
I imagine you would after that.
I did think the Sand People scene where Anakin finds his mum was a good one.
Yeah, that's still an impressive scene today. I mean, it emotionally hits all the right beats. It achieves exactly what it needs to do. It's quite a good milestone in the birth of Darth Vader, as it were. And I remember that scene being quite powerful when I saw it in the cinema, because I thought, well, this is the first time you really see him give in to the dark side.
Although, I haven't watched it in ages, so perhaps, I haven't watched it intently in ages.
No, you've had it on in the background during marathons.
You know the bit where you hear Qui-Gon's voice for that one?
Yeah, Anakin, that part.
The no after doesn't sound like him, I seem to remember. I thought it was like one of the Sand People going, no! As he
I thought it was
them.
Yoda, and it just sounded a bit silly the way they mixed it, like, no! I always thought that sounded really silly.
The fact is, it doesn't sound like Qui-Gon.
No! I suppose they're making him fade away, but it sounds like an entirely different voice from the way they did it.
Yeah, like maybe they just gave Liam Neeson the line and had him just sort of
right. We want you to do
one read.
Okay, Liam, We need you to do the Anakin part normal, like you did for Qui-Gon. Then you do the no, like you're a constipated leprechaun. Why? Just do it.
Yeah. I came to find this film kind of boring in later years because I'm not invested in Anakin and Padme's relationship. The dialogue is fun, but not intentionally.
There are no intentional jokes in this movie. There are. There's a few.
Of course, as a kid, none of it sort of registered as bad to me. Like, this was just stuff people were saying.
Yeah, it's rubbish and it's good. It's a strange movie.
Yeah, I like the Obi-Wan bits though. They hold up, I think.
Obi-Wan Police Squad.
Yeah. Now, this film, from what I remember, has a lot in. Well, actually, I'll probably save that bit for the end. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good moments in this film, but that you have to suffer through the rest to get through.
I don't know. I think suffer's too harsh.
Well, okay, suffer's a strong word, but
yeah, call it the rhetoric.
Suffer's too strong a word, but there are a lot of good moments in this film, but the rest of the film can be a bit of a slog to get to them.
It's a mixed bag. It's like you don't like mint, but you got your friend to go and get you a load of pick and mix at the cinema, and half of it's like balls of mint.
What kind of friend would not know you didn't like mint? They did that on purpose.
Maybe it's just a new friend or like a vendetta.
No, I can't imagine knowing whether all my friends like mint or not.
I'm not really a fan of cheese, and that always astonishes people.
Well, I mean, that's because you're factually incorrect there. Cheese is great.
People are so forceful about their love of cheese. I mean, the amount of times you request something with no cheese on and they just put it on anyway, it's remarkable. It's like, they really can't believe that you don't like cheese. I mean, I'm thinking of sometimes faking an allergy so that people definitely don't put it on.
I did that with alcohol a couple of times.
What, just said you were allergic to alcohol?
Yeah, when I didn't drink because I was sick of explaining why I didn't drink.
Yeah, I'm allergic to alcohol. When I drink too much, I'll just get really dizzy and my reaction speed slowed down and I start acting like an idiot. I don't know what it is.
Oh, that's perfectly normal.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
my memories of this movie, this was probably the first Star Wars movie I remember really looking forward to seeing, because there was quite a build-up to it, quite a lot of stuff in the papers, and lots of information being dripped out, like, this is Count Dooku, this is Jango Fett, and it's like, okay, this is looking interesting. And it was, I think, the time of my 9th birthday. I went to Legoland on my birthday. And this was around the time that Attack of the Clones was coming out, by the way. There was loads of like Lego stuff to do with Attack of the Clones. Like there was a competition where you had to assemble as many Lego clones as possible in under a minute. I couldn't do it, but the funny thing is, I wanted like to buy the bucket full of clones, but they didn't sell buckets full of clones. If you wanted the clones back then, you'd have to pay for like the gunship set, which was something ridiculous like £55. It would probably be closer to 100 today, knowing the price of Lego. And I remember being disappointed by that, because I had Obi-Wan, I had Count Dooku, I had Yoda, all as minifigures. All I really wanted was some droids and some clone troopers, and I could do like Attack of the Clones in Lego. But no, they didn't have that option. And when I went to see it, this was the first Star Wars movie I saw new in the cinema, because, as we talked about last week, I missed out on Phantom Menace. Instantly loved it, probably because it was the first one I got to see in the cinema.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have quite a sentimental spot for this one, even though I acknowledge that parts of it really don't hold up and parts of it do. I really like the detective motif with Anakin and Obi-Wan trying to unveil who's trying to kill Padme. I wish the movie focused on that more.
Oh, I did get excited when Christopher Lee appeared, because I had seen him as Saruman in the Fellowship of the Ring the previous year.
That's right. I also knew him as Saruman, and I also knew him from Man with the Golden Gun, because I was quite a big Bond fan in my young years. So his reputation preceded itself, and if anything, he probably should have been in the movie more, because he's talked about a lot, and you don't really see him until towards the end of the movie. I remember liking the whole Jango Boba Fett thing. I was never really a big fan of Boba Fett, but I liked him in this because, you know, he was a more relatable kid character, you know, of around my age. And him and his dad got to go around, like, blasting Jedi, and I thought, oh, that's brilliant. I really liked the battle on Geonosis. I thought that was really exciting and hype, and all the stuff in the arena, regardless of how the CGI holds up today, is still remarkable as a fight scene.
Well, yeah, I agree. I've always thought that Count Dooku, Christopher Lee, should have been way more of the movie than he was.
He would have probably benefited from being a trilogy-wide villain, if that makes sense.
Perhaps. Darth Maul is the only Sith Lord to just slap Darth in front of his name.
Yeah. Whereas most of the time, Count Dooku didn't really bother with his Sith name because he was more known by his real name.
Darth Larry.
Darth Tyrannus. Oh, it's you, Count Dooku. Oh, I see I'm going to have to explain this one again.
Yeah.
I liked the action scenes mostly, and I think the action scenes are still the high points of the movie. I really liked the subtle stuff about Anakin's fall to the dark side, him looking for Shmi. I liked all the scenes on Tatooine. Do you know what this movie actually could have benefited from, Ollie?
Go on.
And this is going to surprise a lot of people, because this is the one thing that most people really didn't like about this film. The romance scenes.
That does surprise me, because I didn't care for that. I say that. I liked the ones that they deleted that were on the after credits part of the video I had.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get round to, actually, because the problem with the romance in the movie is there's sort of the Padme like, please don't look at me like that, I'm not interested in you. And then all of a sudden she is interested in him, and it seems a bit out of the blue. There's no real getting to know you, getting to know all about you scenes where they get closer together gradually.
I don't remember it that well, but thinking back on it now, Anakin kind of gives off stalker vibes, and I don't like it.
No, I like it, Ollie, and here's the reason. Because he has grown up not socialised around women, especially not in a romantic way, and with no real positive role models, male role models, to tell him how to be around women. So it's kind of realistic that somebody who's raised on a vow of abstinence and no connections, with probably no women your own age to spend time with, it probably makes sense that there'd be a lot like that.
There were women in the temple.
Well, yeah, but, you know, Anakin wasn't exactly, like, going off behind the bike sheds with them in between lightsaber classes, was he?
I suppose not.
I mean, also, a lot of them are a lot older than him, so, I don't know, maybe Shark T's a bit of a Star Wars MILF, but I don't know.
No, like, he would have known how to act cordially around women because there would have been women at the temple.
Yeah, but not about around ones he fancies.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I suppose those aren't feelings he's used to dealing with.
Exactly, and it's not like the Jedi are going to teach him how to be smooth with women, because they don't want him to form relationships, do they?
Like any of them but Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan would know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're smooth, but they've been around a lot longer than Anakin. I mean, think about Anakin. The only women he's known are his own mother till she was 10, and probably whatever Jedi were around in the Jedi Temple who would have been his superiors, because they would be masters and stuff.
Probably Jocasta knew. He probably knew Jocasta knew.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if most of your experience of talking to women is your mom and Jocasta knew, you know, when Natalie Portman comes around, you're probably going to be a bit awkward, aren't you?
I suppose so.
So I think it's actually really realistic, but I liked, as we were saying, the scenes where Padme introduces Anakin to her parents and, you know, her happy home life, and it's like, oh, you like him, don't you? Oh, don't be like that, sister, because that felt very realistic and very grounded and nuanced, and I kind of liked that first sign that Padme, you know, the attraction was mutual. And, you know, Anakin, like, being with her parents as kind of a slice of life, this is what his life could be like outside of the Jedi Order. Because, I mean, if Anakin really could only envisage himself within the Jedi Order, then he wouldn't have developed a relationship with Padme. Yeah. I think it's very important for him to realise he could have a nice life outside the Jedi Order in order for him to take the plunge in the first place and seek this relationship out.
Yeah.
Because there's no life for him outside the Jedi Order.
And then they deleted those scenes.
Yeah.
And kept in the ones that didn't, like... You know that scene where, like, Natalie Portman's in the corset thing for some reason, and it's a smouldering fireplace scene? That scene did not... that scene did not need to be in the film. They do not say anything in that scene that isn't already obvious from their situation.
Also, it makes it even more confusing because she's sort of like, oh no, we can't have a relationship, Anakin. But she's doing that like she's trying to seduce him. I'm surprised that there wasn't like a arm that came down with 2 drinks and like some jazz music playing.
Do you remember that Robot Chicken sketch?
No.
Do you not? Have you
I think I do now. Yeah, it's like my
the
heart
Robot
is
Chicken
breed.
sketch of that scene where she's being like really deliberately over the top about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I would take Anakin getting to know Padme's parents and Padme's sister teasing Padme a bit about liking Anakin and oh, is that your new boyfriend? Over my heart is beating, hoping that kiss won't become a scar any day.
Yeah, that's it's not great dialogue, is it?
Although, the one scene I did like between them was the scene where they're sort of playing in the meadows of Naboo and like he gets on top of that weird creature, which looks shit, but he got on top of the creature and they roll about in the grass and that was fun! Like, that was them enjoying themselves.
That was a good one.
And that's good because it's probably the first time where they haven't had to be overly formal and doing all their duties in a very long time and they're doing it with each other.
And everything is conveyed with very little dialogue. That's something worth mentioning.
It's like it comes from a completely different director to the fireplace scene, doesn't it? Like, the fireplace scene actually would kind of make sense if Padme was trying to seduce him.
Yeah, I suppose it would. But it still wouldn't need to be there. There's still nothing said in that scene that isn't obvious from their situation.
It's a non sequitur.
We know that Anakin's starting to become a Jedi and that Padme is a senator. We have been told this several times throughout the movie.
I thought she was the Postmaster General.
Yeah, and we also know what that means vis-a-vis a relationship between them.
Yeah, we don't need any of that reiterated.
Frankly, you could have included one of the better deleted scenes instead of that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those movies that probably could have done with being 10 minutes longer, keeping in the deleted scenes, maybe having more of Count Dooku. Like, cut out the cornier love scenes which make little sense, and you've got a pretty good movie just with a few changes. Having said that, as a child and today, I did still enjoy what we got.
Yeah.
I think it's time we check this out and give our up-to-date 21st century views on this.
If we must. Okay, let's do this.
Alright, see you in a bit.
See you after the credits roll.
And we have returned, having watched Star Wars Episode 2, what's it called? The Clone One! The Clone One! Attack of the Clones. Okay.
You only watched it like 5 minutes ago.
Brain fart. So, Ollie, I'm going to let you speak for a bit. Did you enjoy that movie?
Yeah, I enjoyed it enough. This is a film that has a lot in common in a way with The Rise of Skywalker for me, in that there's some things in it that are really good in isolation, but they don't all add up to it being a good film.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of a homunculus of different movies in some regards.
Yeah. And honestly, I think I'd rather watch Rise of Skywalker than Attack of the Clones.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's just that between the good bits in The Rise of Skywalker, I'm not bored. Yeah. Whereas I kind of am in Attack of the Clones.
I don't know. Maybe I just don't easily bore, but I've never been bored with this movie.
Well, it's more fun to watch when you've got someone with you that you can talk through the film with.
That's very true.
So I did enjoy the movie on this watching of it because
I made sure you did.
Yeah. And one thing I forgot to mention about my memories of this film, the bit on Geonosis where Dooku's meeting with the Separatists.
Oh, yeah.
And what's his name? Wat Tambor says, the Techno-Union Army, and then goes, makes dial-up sounds.
Yeah.
And goes, is at your disposal, Count. I always thought as a kid that the dial-up sounds meant there was a problem with my videotape.
What, like some feedback or static?
Yeah, well, because the tape did cut out into static for a bit at that moment, so I thought, like...
It's just a bit of a coincidence.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I saw it on TV at my dad's once that I paid special attention to establish that. It's just like, so what does he really say? and then
Yeah,
it was the same, and it's like, oh, so it wasn't my videotape.
it was just part of the movie.
Yeah.
Also, when I had this on video, I didn't have it officially on video. I had it taped off Sky Movies. So the bit
Yeah.
where Anakin turns up at the Sand People camp to rescue his mom, it basically cuts from him arriving there to him in the tent with his mom, because there was sort of this Sky Movies "we will be back shortly" thing. So I didn't think there was any scene in between with him sneaking into the camp and cutting a hole in there, because I didn't remember that from the cinema. So I
Right.
just assumed that they let him in or he found a way in,
Yeah.
and it was just off screen. I mean, he didn't need to be there, but I guess it's nice to see more of the camp before he destroys it and slaughters everyone, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I've got a bit of a soft spot for this one. Maybe it's because it's one of the first cinematic releases I remember really, really looking forward to, and I remember having a good time when I went to see it. Maybe that's just it. I just have a bit of sentimentality for this movie. I agree it's one of the weakest of the Star Wars movies, but having said that, even the weaker Star Wars movies are still a good time.
Yeah. They're still fun. I'm not gonna skip any of them if I choose to marathon them all.
No, I mean, there's no point, is there?
No. Well, I say marathon them all. It's really difficult to fit all 9 of them into a day now.
Yeah, it's kind of getting impossible, isn't it? Because of how many there are these days.
Forget about it if you want to fit Rogue One or Solo in.
Oh god, yeah, that's tricky. And I mean, I'm sure in the space of a few weeks, could also do like the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch and all the other shows.
Well, when I first got Disney Plus, because we got it like 6 months late in the UK,
Yeah, that's right.
the first thing I did was marathon all of Star Wars in sequential order at the time.
Well,
Because I
that
hadn't
must have been a
seen
trip.
all of it. I hadn't seen Rebels. It took me about 2 weeks to do the lot.
Yeah, that seems about right.
And one thing I gotta tell you, after having watched the Clone Wars, Episode 3 seemed really.
It's kind of like Hamburger Helper, but for Star Wars movies.
After
isn't it?
getting used to everything being in a serialized format, Episode 3 seemed like it was really rushing things.
I know what you mean.
Because I guess I got used to the pacing of a TV show.
Well, a lot happens in the space of, what, 3 or 4 days?
Yeah.
I mean, there can't be much more time than that passing over the whole of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but that was the last time I watched Attack of the Clones as well. And it was a good week at least before I got another movie in because I had to go through the Clone Wars.
It's kind of like an origin story to the Clone Wars TV show now, isn't it?
Except that's what the Clone Wars movie is supposed to be.
Yeah, but that's basically just a long version of an episode of a TV show, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's basically a mediocre two-parter, but as a movie.
yeah.
Because as much as I like the Clone Wars, a lot of the episodes are just mediocre, even towards the end. I mean, it only gets consistently good like halfway through.
Yeah, season 4 I think is where it really picks up.
Yeah, like as soon as Darth Maul comes back, you get to the point where the bad episodes or the boring arcs are kind of few and far between.
Yeah, but even in the late game you get some stinkers.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of, in the last season, I kind of do like the whole arc where Ahsoka meets the sisters and see what life is like outside of the Republic and the Jedi, but it did feel like it was an episode too long.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was a decent story, but it didn't need to stick around for as long, and there could have been better stories told, I guess. And then it kicks off the Siege of Mandalore arc.
Oh yeah, it's probably the best the Clone Wars has ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, we've basically got a 4-hour-long cut of Revenge of the Sith now, when you add the Siege of Mandalore to it.
Someone on YouTube must have done that.
I
I'm
think
gonna give it a
somebody
look.
has. You know, and they've sort of interwoven in chronological order the scenes because, you know, during that whole arc you have, like, Ahsoka hearing, oh, Count Dooku's dead now, and, you know, all of this.
And, well, now I suppose you could splice in bits of the Bad Batch if you wanted to.
Yeah, you could, to see what they're up to. It's kind of like 24 in a way.
The Clone Wars is very fertile ground for media, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I sort of get your point where it's a bit oversaturated in that we get so much Clone Wars era content and there's so much to explore. But you can see why there's demand for it. It's a very interesting time in all of Star Wars.
So yeah, this movie, did I enjoy it? Yes. The things I don't like are still things I don't like about it.
There's nothing I hate about it. It's just there's a lot of things that could have been done better or would have been served with deleted scenes being included. And there's a few redundant scenes.
I'll say again that I won't get into this scene is
Oh,
really weird.
it
It
is.
didn't need to be, it didn't need to be there. The lighting,
Padme's sending very mixed signals, I agree.
the lighting and wardrobe is needlessly romantic for the context.
I mean, I get that she just wants to look good, but I don't know, it's...
Hey, you got to look good for
yeah,
yourself.
that's true. Yeah, she's looking good for herself. And for me.
Yeah.
And for me. Also, you do get to see the Queen's wardrobe on that subject. You see it for a split second on Coruscant.
Yeah, you do.
It's more of a railing. I don't know if there's any doors to it, but you see the Queen's wardrobe. It makes an appearance.
Yeah, this is true. But yeah, there's nothing said in that scene that we don't already know about either of them.
The dialogue with the exposition's so obvious for so much of the movie.
Yeah. Although, like, Anakin blatantly outs himself as an authoritarian. And then, but the part that makes that not quite so bad is Padme assumes he's joking with the "you're making fun of me," and he goes, "No, I've been much too frightened to tease the senator." And then she suddenly looks a little perturbed.
I do like how you get one of those early sort of alarm bells in a more humorous and light-hearted scene.
Yeah. Big red flags there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the criticisms about this is how Padme still stays with Anakin even after he admits slaughtering the Tusken Raiders, but I'm not so sure she knows what Tusken Raiders are and that he was killing, sapient beings.
Well, he did say that they were like animals.
Yeah,
and if
exactly.
That was her only
like, for all she knew, Tusken Raiders are like little lizard creatures or something.
Well, no, she'd have seen them in the pod race in The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but I think she'd be more preoccupied with the race, to be honest, especially since her whole planet was riding on it.
Well, I suppose so.
Also, she's got a weird attitude in parts of this movie. It's like when Yoda's being really nice to her in the beginning, she just ignores him and goes, "Do you know who's behind the attack?" And again, he says something else like, "We'll get the Jedi to protect you," and she just looked right through him.
Well, she was just attacked.
I know, but I like how she just needlessly ignores Yoda. Has she been introduced to Yoda at this point? Maybe briefly before, but...
She knows who Yoda is.
Yeah, I like how she's just completely disrespecting him. No, oh yeah, it's nice to see you, Yoda, now to business. None of that.
Yeah, and then there's those Jedi in the background that were just there to stand around thinking this meeting could have been an email.
Yeah, personally I think that Luminara and Dooley and Barriss Offee had something really boring to do, so they got out of it by just going with Mace Windu to the meeting.
Maybe.
It's like, you do realise that we've got to clean out the desks in the Jedi Younglings Centre. Well, no, I've got to go with Yoda to do business.
I do consistently enjoy the Obi-Wan parts. Some of the set design is really good. Like, there is an over-reliance on CGI that isn't quite good enough to warrant the over-reliance on it.
It irks me in this movie, and it didn't with the first one. It irks me with this one, though.
But the design of these locations, I mean, if there's one thing that's consistently great about Star Wars, it would be that.
Oh yeah, and especially most of the planets in the prequels just look really imaginative and interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Kamino would look amazing in live action with today's technology, and the same goes for Geonosis and I said that during the battle with the clones and the droids.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if that was made today, it would look 10 times better.
Obi-Wan's, like, spy versus spy thing he does.
Yeah, I like the whole cloak and dagger thing he has going on with Jango Fett, where they're sort of, like, dissecting each other verbally before they end up fighting. I mean, I would have liked to have seen the pre-tank stick up longer before they started fighting. I like how they get a bit of martial arts action, though, where they're fist fighting.
Yeah, that's cool.
You don't see that very often with the Jedi in Star Wars. And it's kind of nice to see Obi-Wan fighting without a lightsaber as well. And I do wish the whole thing with them, like, tracking down the bounty hunters lasted longer, and Anakin and Obi-Wan got more time to be buddies together. This movie's kind of a bit weaker for them spending so much time apart. I know that you kind of have to do it because you can't exactly form a romantic relationship with a woman with your master sort of standing over you, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, speaking of,
Like, do you mind, Master Obi-Wan?
that bit where Obi-Wan like publicly chews Anakin out in front of everyone for back talking him.
Yeah. But the way I read that scene is it's him laying down the law and not really being confident enough in himself to know how best to do that.
Yeah, well, he's a newly minted Jedi and had the chosen one thrust upon him
Yeah.
as soon as like he was done with his own training.
I mean, it's not blatantly said, but there's definitely some insecurity still.
Yeah, well, there would be.
Yeah. I mean, that could have been explored a bit more, actually, because I think even at that stage, Obi-Wan probably had a bit of a doubt that he was failing Anakin a bit and didn't really know how to proceed from there.
I don't know if there is any expanded universe materials on Anakin's early training, but I'd like to see some.
I think there's a few things, like little books and stuff like that. That'd be quite an interesting era to explore on the Obi-Wan show, because I'd like to see some flashbacks in that. It would be a nice opportunity to backfill without making everything all Clone Wars all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's still some backfilling in those two characters' relationship with each other. I find it interesting when a protagonist and an antagonist have something in common, particularly if it's something emotionally significant. And what Obi-Wan and Count Dooku have in common is they've both lost Qui-Gon. And it would be interesting if they explored that a bit more, like, there's the bit where Count Dooku says, I wish he was still alive. But it would be nice if they talked about that a bit more, because you've sort of got both characters dealing with the grief a bit, like Count Dooku left the Jedi and ended up becoming a Sith, and Obi-Wan's still not 100% found his way, his way in the world.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if they talked about it for a while before they went into the Senators thing.
Well, they're not sibling students. That would imply Qui-Gon taught them both.
No.
You know what I mean? They have a link through Qui-Gon, and I think that's the reason Dooku sort of reached out to him a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I do believe that he was sincere, that he wanted Obi-Wan to join him. Obviously it would have been in the dark side. I think he still sort of wanted Obi-Wan to be on his side.
Yeah, I do believe that the plea was genuine, and he would have got him out otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think that Count Dooku could have benefited from being a trilogy-wide character, because we would have got a better measure of him.
At the very least, he should have been more of this movie.
Oh, absolutely. I don't understand. You get Christopher Lee, and you only use him for like 10 minutes of the movie. I just don't get that. And most of his screen time is just watching other people fight in the stadium, which is fine, but I would have liked to have seen more of him talking to people. There's quite an interesting deleted scene where he negotiates with Padme and basically makes it abundantly clear that nothing she can say will stop him from doing separatist things.
Right, I haven't seen that scene.
We'll watch it after this. But there's quite a lot of very interesting deleted scenes for this movie. I do feel like it's one of those movies that could have done with being a bit longer, but I think at the time it was made, it was the longest Star Wars movie.
I don't think it could have done with being longer. I think it's plenty long already. I think you could probably fit all those interesting scenes in where some boring ones are now.
In fairness, there's a few things that could have been cut or abridged.
Yeah.
Yeah, like cut out the confusing fireplace seduction scene that wasn't even a seduction scene.
Yeah.
And then put in happy family stuff.
Yeah, well that would be the first change I'd make.
Yeah.
Dex is fun.
And Dooku for days. Yeah, Dex is brilliant, and I love this character, and I think it's a crime that he's not appeared in anything Star Wars ever since, to my knowledge.
I don't know if he has.
I mean, how has he not been in one episode of the Clone Wars where Obi-Wan resorts to him as a sort of source of information, or even he could be somebody else's source of information or go-between?
I'd actually love a sitcom about him running his diner.
Yeah, I like that. And also, I like him as a kind of a knowledge broker character.
Yeah.
A very underused character. Very underused.
You can tell that he's well-travelled and, he's got, salt-of-the-earth wisdom.
Exactly. And that's a bit of a Qui-Gon poking through for Obi-Wan as well, because most Jedi wouldn't think to go to a normal person to get information. Like Dex says, the difference between knowledge and wisdom. The Jedi know a lot, but they're not necessarily wise enough to seek out normal people who might know these things that they don't.
Yeah.
Whereas Qui-Gon definitely would just go to like random people on the street and find stuff out.
Yeah.
Ollie, how well did the film achieve its goals, and what were they?
I guess the goal of this movie would be to to establish Anakin's personality, because we only got a very early version of him in The Phantom Menace, obviously,
Yeah.
because he was 9.
I mean, that was Anakin 98. This is Anakin XP.
We get the template for what adult Anakin's personality may one day be like, establish his relationship with Padme, well, kick off the Clone Wars, obviously.
Yeah. It world builds quite well.
Well, it does in places. I mean, I think it accomplished its goals, but nowhere near as well as it could have done.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It set up the Clone Wars well. It showed Anakin's descent to the dark side. It established his relationship with Padme. But again, it probably could have done that a lot more organically and a lot better, as deleted scenes have been filmed demonstrate. It established the buddy relationship, younger and older sibling relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, although I feel like the movie would have benefited from more of that. It did a good job of evoking a feel of detective noir, but I just wish the movie did more of that again. And Count Dooku was an excellent villain, but he just was barely in it, and the movie could have benefited from him being a larger presence throughout.
Yeah. At every turn, the film just stops just short of being good and decides to not do the thing that it's doing that's working anymore.
There are some beautifully made scenes in this movie. Like, Shmi's death is heartbreaking, and everything afterwards is incredible. All the Tatooine scenes are really good. The arena fight's amazing, but would have benefited from more modern film technology. I really like the scenes where Obi-Wan's trying to figure stuff out. I like him having the sort of James Bond meeting the villain chat with Jango Fett. That was really nice.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I really like that scene and the subtlety between them where they're just really tense and so you've been into the interior of Coruscant, have you? Once or twice, possibly. That bit, I love that exchange.
Yeah.
There's so many scenes.
Obi-Wan knows he's found his man, and Jango knows that he knows.
Yeah. And they don't say anything, and I love it.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen them hold up the pretense a bit longer. Like, perhaps they're like, oh, I insist, I'll escort you to your ship. And then they're chatting, and then it's like, why are we playing this game when we already know what's going on? And then they start fighting. That would have been nice.
Yeah. Oh. Don't suppose I could persuade you to come back to Coruscant with me for questioning? No.
Isn't that a shame? And then they start fighting, something like that. Really good, really good. I really like the one Padme scene with Anakin that I do actually like is when they're in the meadows and rolling about and just talking about life.
Yeah, that one was alright.
Yeah, that was the only good one that they kept, in my opinion.
Yeah. There were other good ones, but they wound up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah. Although, the wedding at the end, that bishop, or whatever he is, he knows stuff. He must be a really safe pair of lips, because if that guy was in the real world, he'd probably be selling his story to like the Daily Mirror or something.
Yeah. The person who officiated the wedding of a Jedi is probably a pretty sought-after scoop.
With a high-profile politician.
Yeah.
He could have made a lot of money if he wanted to, and to his credit, he kept it a secret.
I don't know, maybe Anakin mind-tricked him to forget after.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, the film's goals, it was sort of the middle part of the trilogy. It's a difficult space, I think.
I'd say 50-50.
Yeah. It set up episode 3 quite well, I think.
Yeah. Well, the middle part of a trilogy is always tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're not at the end and you're not the beginning.
They're not all going to be The Empire Strikes Back.
No, 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 no. Or The Last Jedi, for that matter.
No.
No. So, 50-50, it achieved its goals. I think it made a fair bit of money, and those who decided they really hated The Phantom Menace had probably buggered off at this point, and those who liked it stayed, and they had a decent time. I remember liking it at the time, so as part of the target audience of children, because that's what Star Wars has always been made for, children primarily, I think it worked for me.
Yeah, yeah. On the whole, I think I'd put this at the bottom of my live action Star Wars movie list. Although, in terms of everything, it does beat out the Clone Wars animated movie.
Yeah, but to be honest, 90% of episodes of the Clone Wars beat out the Clone Wars animated movie.
Yeah, this is true.
So, this is an interesting question. Did the movie exceed your expectations?
I don't think I'm going to answer yes to any of the prequels in this because I've seen them so many times.
Yeah, it's a very difficult question. This is better for like smaller movies that we haven't seen as often. Exactly, it's what I expected. I already had a good measure of the movie, and none of my opinions were changed by watching it one more time.
Yeah, I'm far too familiar with the film for that.
Yeah. On to the next one then. Is there an element in the film that particularly appeals? And for God's sake, don't say, well, it's Star Wars.
It is, though. Right, okay. Well, the soundtrack's good.
Always is. Always is.
Yeah, I like the setting. The Obi-Wan parts are always a laugh. Yep, Ewan McGregor is consistently great as Obi-Wan, no matter what the rest of any film he's in does.
This is the only Star Wars detective film we've ever had, and I appreciated that about it.
Yeah, we should have more of those.
Yeah, I mean, we had a few episodes of the Clone Wars a bit like that, like Ahsoka finding out who was behind the Jedi Temple bombing, and Echo finding out about Order 66.
I actually really like Solo for being a Star Wars heist movie.
Yes, me too. It was just a fun time. It was a roller coaster.
It's got Paul Bettany as like a dangerous gang leader person. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. Did you know he was cast fairly last minute because the person who was doing the role before, I can't remember who it was, but they dropped out because of other commitments.
Well, you could do far worse than Paul Bettany.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. As for Attack of the Clones, though, elements that appeal to me, other than the soundtrack,
I'd say the emotional scenes, because all the moments that we were supposed to feel about were pretty good.
Yeah, I suppose.
With the exception of maybe the fireplace scene, all the moments we were supposed to care about were pretty good.
I guess seeing the beginnings of what would become Darth Vader would be an element that appealed to me.
Yeah,
because that's what I wanted to see when I went to see it in the cinema.
Yes, because if you remember the movie posters for the prequels, the first one was of a little Anakin with the shadow of Darth Vader behind him. That was a really good poster, and that got people excited. And this one, it was Anakin and Padme back to back, except Anakin had a red lightsaber. And I was like, wow, does he turn to the dark side this early? Does he get a red lightsaber this early? And it was, I think it's just because like red is the colour of passion or whatever. I sound like I'm from The Room, don't I?
Yeah.
Then again, to be fair, so do Anakin and Padme for most of this movie.
Yes, this is true.
I want to buy her flowers because I love her very much.
Hi, doggy.
You're my favourite customer. Do you know who was amazing in this movie?
Who?
Poggle the Lesser.
Poggle the Lesser?
Yes!
Elaborate.
I respect him so much after rewatching this. Because the bit where Mace Windu comes in with a lightsaber to Jango Fett's throat, Poggle the Lesser has wings and can fly like the rest of them do, but he sticks with Count Dooku when he could have flown away.
Oh yeah, Poggle's ride and die.
Yeah, he could have saved himself, but he didn't. He stuck with Count Dooku. And then when Mace Windu gets dealt with, he just casually walks away with him. It's brilliant. I love Poggle the Lesser and the Techno Union guy. I love them both. They're brilliant. And I liked Newt Gunray in this, actually, because he's just petty and he wants revenge, and that is his only motivation, and that's the only motivation he needs from here on out.
Yeah. I mean, like, once he's in with the Separatists, it's sink or swim, really. Like,
But I'm convinced that he only joined up with the Separatists just out of petty revenge, so that he could get revenge on Padme.
Oh, I think he definitely did, but whether he did or not, once he's in with the Separatists and the war's started,
Yeah, there's no turning
backing out.
back. Yeah. So I like the whole thing in the Clone Wars where there was a branch of the Trade Federation that stayed with the Republic, and they said, oh, well, he's an extremist and he doesn't represent our views. But they're so obviously still working together behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
But nobody can say it. Nobody can say it. I really like the unintentional comedic timing when the Captain Typho's like, I guess I was wrong, there was no danger after all, and there was an explosion immediately afterwards.
And then the decoy says, I failed you, Senator. No, you haven't.
She did her job perfectly.
Yeah, no, this is what your job is. I mean, got 5 stars.
Yeah. Employment opportunities in future aren't great, but...
Yeah.
You can't top having been the Senator's decoy.
No.
I also like her better as the Senator in this one, because it means she doesn't have to wear the makeup anymore and she's a bit more down to earth. And I think that works for this movie, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, the action scenes appealed to me a lot as a child, and despite, again, me being irked by the fact they use CGI for every single clone trooper in every single instance, the action scenes themselves are nice. I really like all the stuff in the arena.
Kid, I liked how many lightsabers were in the Battle of Geonosis.
Oh, yeah, we never saw that again. 200 lightsabers in an arena, it's just remarkable. And I noticed there was this one guy who was dual wielding through several, and you can see him in several shots, and he has the reverse grip and everything. He has one blue and one red lightsaber, one blue and one green lightsaber.
I never managed to spot him, but
watch that scene again and you won't be able to not see him. He appears 3 times.
Nowadays I see like the loads of lightsabers as maybe a bit gratuitous, but you know what? I'm gonna let it slide.
When you're a 9-year-old kid who likes Star Wars, you're never going to see the likes of that again, and it's remarkable.
Yeah.
So, Ollie, how does the film hold up today?
Not great. I mean, it wasn't great then, to be honest. The CGI has probably aged the worst of all.
Yeah, I agree. Episode 1 somehow looked better, and I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because it had more aesthetically pleasing locations. Like, Naboo just looks nice and pretty, and Tatooine looks like Tunisia, so it's kind of hard to get that wrong. Whereas the locations in this are a bit more extraordinary, so I suppose you have to employ a lot more CGI to pull them off. And also, although I find the Geonosians as a species really interesting, the planet Geonosis itself is a bit meh for me.
I'm not that into it myself.
No, I mean, it's the first battle of the Clone Wars, and it's just in another desert. I would have liked to have seen a big battle in a more interesting location.
I'm not going to comment on the state of the dialogue, because there's nothing I could say that hasn't been said 1,000 times by 1,000 people. But if you find that funny, you know, it might hold up better today.
Yeah, like, some of it's funny, some of it's unintentionally funny, and some of it's just a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
But when it's good, it's good. I just wish it was good more often, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, yeah, it doesn't hold up as well as most of the other Star Wars movies do. But as part of the whole, it's
I'd
an
still happily
unmissable.
watch it.
Yeah, it's an unmissable part of the trilogy. It does a lot of things right, and I think it's worth exploring just for those things alone.
Yeah.
So, do you think the film was received appropriately at the time?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't think so, because I seem to remember it has a higher tomato meter score than The Phantom Menace.
Also, reportedly, Ewan McGregor laughed when he first heard the title was Attack of the Clones because he thought it was being made up. Because he thought it was deliberately meant to sound like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Yeah, apparently Ewan McGregor found it quite challenging as an actor filming this because of how much he had to interact with characters that were CGI that weren't really there.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, a few people misinterpreted that as a criticism, but To be honest, I think that it would be difficult for any actor in that situation, and Christopher Lee was pretty good considering, because he did a lot of his own fencing stunts, because in real life he was proficient in fencing through his multiple roles previously.
Right.
So the stuff where he's fighting, I think it was sped up a bit, but he was doing most of that. He did have a stunt double for some of it, but most of it he did himself.
That's brilliant.
Including, I think, fighting Yoda, so it must have been difficult for him just sort of wildly swiping at fresh air.
Yeah. We'll fix it in post.
They kind of did. Kind of. But in terms of how this movie performed, had a budget of 115 million, so it cost more than a Bicentennial Man, and I'm going to compare it to the previous one, actually. It had exactly the same budget as The Phantom Menace. But also it had a box office of 653.8 million.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Sequels never do as well as the first one did, but it retained a lot of its audience, and it made a six-fold profit.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I think it did pretty well.
Yeah, and the critical response... I don't remember this being popular amongst the critics.
No, nor do I. But I remember it being better received, at least in hindsight, from what I could glean from internet discourse than The Phantom Menace was. And I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I respect that view. It did get some nominations for Academy Awards and Teens' Choice Awards and the like, so it's not like it wasn't unacknowledged. Although apparently it got a few Golden Raspberry Awards for like Worst Picture and Worst Screenplay and Worst Screen Couple.
Oh, God. Well, yeah, I'd say it was received appropriately at the time.
I'm going to see what it says on Rotten Tomatoes, actually. Attack of the Murder Hornets 2021 is the first thing that comes up when I search for Attack of the Clones. But yeah, I can see why Ian McGregor would think it's a funny name, because other movies that come up when you search for that is Attack of the Tatty Bogey and Attack of the Killer Donuts.
Right.
Oh my god, Attack of the Killer Donuts, that's a movie we need to watch. Okay, this is interesting. Would you say that the critics or the audience enjoyed it more?
I'm going to say audience.
You're going to be wrong, Ollie, it's for critics. 65% on the tomato meter, and 56% audience score.
Interesting.
And what the consensus says is Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones benefits from an increased emphasis on thrilling action, although they're once again undercut by ponderous plot points and underdeveloped characters.
I don't think I believe the increased emphasis on action. It feels to me like there was more in The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you had a longer lightsaber duel, you had a space battle in the first one, which you don't really have in this one, unless you're counting Jango Fett. Yeah, I think you do have more action in the first one. I think you're right, Ollie.
Yeah.
Also, you have the pod race, which, if you consider that action, which I do, because even though it's not fight, it's still a struggle.
Very kinetic.
Yeah, very kinetic. So yeah, I disagree. And I think they maybe have a point that the characters are underdeveloped in some cases. I think Anakin's fairly well developed. Obi-Wan, mostly. I think Count Dooku should have been developed more, and Padme, to be honest.
Well, Obi-Wan doesn't really need to go through development much in this movie. He's on a mission.
I like his mission, and I wish that was a bigger part of the movie.
Yeah, same.
So, would you care to sum up?
Don't know what else I'd say, really. It's Attack of the Clones.
No.
I find it a bit of a struggle when I try and watch it on my own. I'm used to it as background noise, so that's what it ends up being. But it's still a laugh when you are with someone to either laugh at the dialogue or enjoy the spectacle of it for what it is. You know, it can still be a good time.
It's a fun ride. I wish it was more consistent, but 9-year-old me was happy with what I've got, and I'm still satisfied to this day. We've got plenty of Star Wars media out there, so it's not like this has some sort of blotch on the whole franchise. That would be ridiculous. Overall, I still liked it, and I liked it about as much as I have done for quite a while.
Okay.
Next week, we're watching Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So we're closing off the trilogy. I think this is the most popular of the three movies by far. So
Yeah.
I'll be very interested to re-examine that, and hopefully you'll be interested enough to return, watch the video, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think.
Okay. We will see you next week.
Absolutely. Please do. And please, in the meantime, subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell so you know when our weekly videos come out. And if you feel like it, leave us a like and comment. Tell us what you think.
Join our Discord server if you want.
Hey, why not? Why not? So, see you next week.
See you next week.
Goodbye.